look at different times of the day. We may take a look at either different times of the day or even different days of the week, just to see what would be the best for people tuning in. My name is Jerry Isaac Shapiro. I'm the executive director of the American Friends of Kidum, and we'll introduce other people as we go around. This is, excuse me, the third in our series, exploring different aspects of SAE, of the Aguda in Israel. I was lucky enough to be in Israel now about 2 weeks or so ago, just for a very short amount of time, and was fortunate to see many of our schools and speak with our colleagues in Israel. There are some tremendous things going on the ground in Israel, innovative and exciting and enthusiastic education going on. So we took a look at different aspects of our programs and in education bichlal, education in general, the last couple of sessions. Today, we're taking a look at what we've called excellence in education. Please God, every piece of education should be excellent. This specifically today is about how we enrich education according to the needs and the abilities of every student. And the second half hour will be talking about tools that very, very exciting. Our first conversation is going to be with Michal Shavit, who is the Director of Pedagogical Development, and Eden Israeli, the Director of Learning Development, both of whom work for the Aguda, for the Society for Advancement of Education. So maybe if we can have just a couple minutes of introduction from Eden and from Michal, your positions, your areas of responsibility, and a sentence or two about your own background, how you got to where you are today. Let's start with Eden.
Unmute. Hi, I'm Eden. I've been working at the Aguda for 10 years. My background is learning disabilities and special education. And I came to the Aguda from I used to work in the Ministry of Education doing behavioral analysis for special education. And I came to the Aguda in the beginning as a learning disabilities specialist, and my job has evolved. So I now run 2 programs, and I also assist in working with schools that are in the beginning, initial periods of, I was working with Inbar, and now I'm working with Shachar, who you'll meet in half an hour. But my main facility is to work, I have the 2 programs that I run. One is Nayot project or program, which is learning centers for kids who need special assistance. And the second is Hidden Sparks, where we work with the teachers on giving teachers the tools and the knowledge to work with diverse learners.
Thank you. And Michal, a little bit about your own background and your specific tafkid, your area of responsibility with the Aguda.
Okay, so I'm coming from running, I was a principal of high schools in Israel, first in the high school of what we call Liada, near the university in Jerusalem. I was vice principal there, and then I ran the junior high, very big junior high in Mevaseret Zion, and then I was a principal of the high school at Maccabim Reut, called Mo. And then I came, I think about 8 years ago, I came to the Aguda. And the main issue that I'm working with is developing new schools for new societies. Different schools, different aims, and different ways of working or teaching and learning. So each school is really, it comes after 1 year thinking with the new principal, the principal that has to come to run it, and with other expertise and team members. And just after 1 year working, we are established the school. And then we begin, to look, to look after the little baby and to grow with it. So now we have 5 different high schools that we established in the 7 late years, which is a lot. And we have also 2 high schools that we review their idea and their concept to different things, and they really went up and up. So it's very interesting, but very challenging. And my main issue, I'm working with Eden, of course, I'm not alone, and we have another partner in our department. So we're working on different aspects of the schools and also the boarding schools that are combined or not to the schools, to see it as one unit.
So when we were talking about the different aspects of the Aguda to explore, Haredi education, Arab, gender equity, things like that, this in particular, not that those aren't of interest to me, but al achat kama v'kama, all the more so is this of interest. When I before coming to Kidum, I was head of school for 17 years, and I'm quite happy and proud to say we had a very large learning team. Guidance counselors, social workers, occupational therapists, speech therapists, gifted instructors, far larger than most schools. Unfortunately, I would say that we were the minority in terms of schools in general, and certainly in terms of Jewish day schools even. What I'd like to ask you is a completely unfair question. Give me a 40,000 foot, 40,000 kilometer view of, quote, special education in Israel. To what extent are people saying, yes, of course, everyone should be enriched? To what extent are schools or parents or teachers saying, no, come on, we don't need that? You know, what's the larger picture before we zero in on your particular programs? Michal?
You mean special education as chinuch miyuchad, what we call? No.
Yeah, I mean, however you describe it.
This is Eden's expertise, and she's working with the special education. If you mean the section of special education, which is, different groups for students that has some disability or difficulties with learning. But if you mean special things in education, okay.
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, I want to say about the excellence, about the word excellence in education, that we see it as to take each student as higher as he or she can to the best place he can reach or she can reach. Because it's not just be with good grades or I don't know, with good expertise in the learning. It's taking you as a person to the higher place that you can go. It even makes the pupils, the students that has difficulties with learning, at the same level as they have also mission to get higher and higher, not just to stand whenever they are. What is it? What? Holistic perspective. Who is writing here? Okay. So this is about how we see the excellence in our schools. But if we're talking about special programs that we have, first of all, we see a great value by building connections with the academy, different parts of the academy. Let's say now today, just today, we build a program with the Boyer High School, with the Hebrew U. They have a special, or we will have with them a special program that makes the 10th graders, just of course, not all the students, just part of the students, but to make like preparation to high education And then if they can make it, they can go in the 11th and 12th grade to academical learning, to take some courses. First of all, 2 courses, and then we'll see how they will go. But they can begin taking during their learning at high school, they can take some academic courses and to build their degree in the Hebrew U, which is, I hope it will be something very attractive, and hopefully we'll have enough students that can go to this mission, because it's very, very hard. Already they are working with the Open University. There is a special program, is the Open University, then you can take courses, and of course, and so we have it in some schools, not just in Boyer High School.
So let me take a little bit with what Michal said and switch to Ed. And my apologies, because we have such a short amount of time for a topic that could really, really go on for hours. I'm wondering if the way that the both of you, I'll be presumptuous, understand learning enhancement, is this the way that the rank and file parent or teacher sees it, do you think? Have things changed over the last 10 or 15 or 20 years?
Yes,
Heather?
they've changed very much. When I can even say in the 10 years that I've been at things have changed very much. First of all, it used to be that kids who started high school, immediately all of the learning specialists and occupational therapists and all of that ended as soon as they entered high school.
Right.
And all they got was sometimes some extra tutors or something, but no specialists. Things have changed. Now these special services continue through to middle school. And in 10th grade, they do get extra help. And also there's much more focus on assisting them with different testing, accommodations. But the whole perspective of teachers on that they're teaching students and not teaching a subject of a discipline, I think has changed very much. A lot more teachers have been to professional development and understand that they need to accommodate different students in their classroom. The special education law has passed in Israel so that students who are eligible for extra services get them. It's part of the special education law, and it's starting to move also into the high schools. So the middle schools are now sort of covered, kind of, and the high schools are starting to be much more attuned to different students. I can say that at the Aguda schools, where we've been working with Hidden Sparks for over 5 years in some schools, I see that a lot of teachers are taking responsibility for all of the students in their classroom. They're not referring them to specialists. They're not outsourcing the students. They're taking responsibility for working with heterogeneous classrooms in their own classroom.
It's interesting
But
that you said.
I must say that, sorry, I must say that the needs are much, much bigger than the sources that the ministry give. This reform that they did in the special education now made our resource less and less. It's awful, really. It's not so good now what happened.
Even though there's recognition that the challenge is greater, Dafka, the resources are now less.
The kids who have extra, their difficulties are more complex, or like kids who are on the autistic spectrum will get more resources. But kids who have what they call light learning disabilities will get much less. The teachers in the classroom are expected, or nothing, and the teachers in the classroom are expected to deal with it.
You know, in some way, Israel and the States are so different. In other ways, they're very similar. It was interesting you said about Eden, about teaching students. I had this thing in the school for years and years after they figured it out. So I couldn't make the same joke, but for a while I said, this is a school that does not teach math. And the first time I said it, they were aghast. And we don't teach English. We don't even teach Hebrew. We teach students. And the whole mindset is completely different. It's not about, a subject area of extra. Of course it is, but the approach has to be different. How do you even describe this broad area? I use the phrase special education, but that actually has a connotation. And we are supposed to be the people who understands that words have power. So how in a school setting do you even define and describe that which you do? How do you explain it to a parent? How do you explain it even to a teacher? Michal, Eden, whoever.
Well, today we're talking about new pedagogical ways or new pedagogy. That's the word now. It's also very, everyone use it. So I don't know if it's so good, but this is the word. But it means that we are, and Corona did it much bigger, that we are using different spaces, not just in the school, of course, not just in the classes, because we are learning all over and we have days or lessons out of the schools. It means that we have a lot of creativity, even evaluation, and different ways of evaluation. It means that we are working with other schools or with other institute in Jerusalem or wherever we have the schools. We're working with other institutes to make our learning richer and different and so on. So we are working outside and differently, and we are not teaching just for the Bagrut. This is almost obvious now. It's very hard because we have to do the Bagrut and we have to teach for the Bagrut. But the learning during the high school time is becoming more and more rich and not just approach to the Bagrut. And I think
great to hear.
This is the big difference that we are now experiencing.
Yes, I think it's also skill-based. So the teachers understand that they're teaching skills and not knowledge, because knowledge is accessible on every phone, but you need to know what to look for, how to find it, how to assess it, how to take all of this information that's so accessible and understand what's important, what isn't, what's reliable, what isn't, and what to do with it, how to synthesize all of this information and do something with it, and to solve problems. So, but back to your question about special education, it's true it has a negative connotation maybe, but for teachers, for students, and for parents who understand that they need extra support or a different teaching style or learning style or a different assessment style, they understand that in order to show their true colors and their best, they need this support, and they need the teachers to understand them and to advocate what they need. And I think that parents and students are much less timid or shy about advocating for what they need and asking for it and making sure that they get the accommodations that they need. Sometimes it's even to excess. That means the parents who have more money will send their kids to be assessed and to get testing accommodations, even if the staff doesn't really think that they need them. But the pendulum, goes both ways.
So if there has been progress, thankfully, in the last 10, 15, certainly 20 years, take a look ahead in the next 10, 15, or 20 years. What would you like to see in the school system in Israel that would really address these types of issues? And I really want to get to Yedida's question too, because she's been great. Yedida is also a professional educator and recent granted a doctorate in the field. And in our other conversations, she's asked some great questions. So first, if you can address that, take a look in the future. What kind of changes would you love to see? And then we can address Yedita's question.
Eden, you want to answer? Or me?
Okay, it also has to do with what Yedita asked. I think that is all of the OECD and all of the talk about education has been talk about the skills for the 21st century. How do we understand what it means to be a student in this time, and what are the skills that they're going to need in 10 years? Where are these kids going to be? What are the job skills that they're going to need? But so a lot of education really is moving towards skills. That means the social emotional skills that the students need, also the higher level thinking of how do we approach problems, how do we solve problems, what is the skill set that we need to work in a team together to solve a problem, and how do we assess if we succeeded or we didn't. These are all things that also have to do with personalized learning, because if each student finds their place in the team and understands what they can give, what their special skill set is, and where they are special and what they're good at, it also helps them to really be proactive in having the learning more a better fit for them. So we're also talking about the student as an agent, a student out there and doing stuff and actually stylizing the way they're learning and thinking about what they want to do in the classroom.
Yes. So we actually we took those three pedagogical or three aims as our focus in working for the next years. It's agency, it's making the pupils and also the teachers and the staff, not just the students, to make them like agent of themselves, proactive and so on, as Eden said, SEL and the outdoor learning. Those three approaches, we are now working very hard in all over, in all our place, in all our schools, to see how we can make it more useful. But if you're asking me what I wanted to see in the next 20, 30 years, first of all, I want to see the whole educational system more flexible, not and less unified. Because if we can let the varieties of different way of learning and teaching, and if we can let the staff, the teachers and the developing staff at the schools make their own creative ways of what to do and how to do, I think we can get from really new things that we cannot even see today how it can be, but we can feel it. We can really feel it. So if the whole system will be more flexible and let us go with the ideas, with the teachers that want to renovate, if we can make it, I'll be happy. I won't be with you for the next 30 years, but I'll be happy.
So Yedita, I'm going to put you on the spot. You initially asked about holistic education. What does that mean to you? And how would you, really literally in the next couple of minutes, how would you frame that for a question for either Eden or Michal?
Because thank you for wonderful, talk, Michal and Eden. I appreciate it. you were talking about looking at the child or the student from not just from the test scores or just from the academic, also putting the social, emotional aspect into the teaching. I prefer to, to address that as learning, because we are all learning, not just the students, also the teachers. Do you have, when you assess students, do you assess them from a holistic perspective or just according to the test scores? I know you mentioned the bagruyot, everyone needs to have, that's the goal, to graduate from high school. So are there any assessment tools that you employ to help, the student?
Yeah, even the bagruyot have changed. They're not only
Is
questions of,
changing. It's
or are
ongoing.
changing. It's
Yes.
an ongoing process, but
Yes.
the questions are not only, just to memorize information, but it's a lot of questions that require the students to think and to make to make connections between things. But also 30% of their grade is some kind of alternative assessment, some kinds of projects or other ways of assessing their knowledge, not only a written paper, an exam that they hand in. So 30%, that's all over Israel. And in our schools, in the middle school, they do a lot of projects and work on
And
project basis.
we have alternative bagrut already in some of the schools. There is different alternative programs that we have, especially in the humanities, in history, civils, and so on.
That's
But
Yes.
great to
this
hear.
is the beginning. This is the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
So
great.
it's-
I invite you afterwards to
The
ask.
main thing is, as I said before, is the schools that can get rid from this pressure of bagrut, that can get rid from it and can teach and learn, of course, without this pressure in different ways. And then when they're coming, into the bagrut or very close to, they of course focus on the bagrut and the assessment and so, but without this pressure, they really begin to do more and more things, and they feel free to do it. This Corona year did a very good lesson for all of us, really.
So on that ironic note, I really want to thank everyone who came on, and particularly Michal and Eden. Look, lahavdil, in the States, people are still struggling with the industry of the SAT. It is not the bagrut, but it is in the way that it's had a stranglehold on what I would call genuine education. It was education for the sake of a test. And then the bagrut, Chol Yoter was similar in that it wasn't a means to learn, it was a means to do well on a test. But we hope that's changing. Thank you again for this. Look, for me personally and professionally, it's a fantastic conversation. And like I said, we're also going to experiment with different times of the day, different days of the week, maybe different months of the year, to open these kind of conversations up to more and more people. So toda rabah lechem, to
Toda
Michal
rabah.
and
Thank you.
to Eden.
Toda rabah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We're switching gears.